Hello, everybody. April 15th, Joe Verfari, Poyon, Mike here. Welcome to the show, guys. Been a while. NBA playoff preview. We're going to get to the playoffs in a second because they're starting off today, but we do want to start off with the Toronto Raptors, the home team that let a lot of the Toronto fans down this year. I know that some people had some higher expectations. I was speaking with Zane going into the season, and we were talking about how the top three was set with Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly, but the Raptors and Cleveland were kind of right there fighting for the four.
Absolutely.
That didn't happen, as we know. Season didn't go as planned. There was a lot of, hiccups that happened during the season. And that being said, the Raptors lose a home play-in game to the Chicago Bulls. Guys, Poirier, we'll go to you first. Where did the Raptors go wrong in this game?
Well, in this game, it was free throws. That's all it came down to. When you miss 18 free throws, what else are you supposed to do? I think Chicago needs to thank their six man, DeMar DeRozan's daughter, for causing that. I mean, but we were talking about it before. You know, these are professional basketball players, right? Do you really let
a child,
right, cause that big of a difference? I mean, it came down to free throws. You know, we were talking about how the game before in the play-in for Lakers in Utah, Mike Conley had to hit 3 free throws and he came on clutch.
Yeah.
You know, it's a gene that you either you have or you don't. And I think that that's something that every team moving forward should practice, train. It goes back to Giannis in last year's finals when they won.
Went perfect at one point.
When he won perfect, 16 for 16. Like, the point is that if that's your flaw, free throws, that's a problem. Because that's a game. It's a game that you should have won. They were up by 19.
62-47, I remember. I was at the game. And it's funny because they were up really big at one point, and I was like, there's going to be a comeback at some point. I wasn't expecting a loss during the game.
Game of runs. And
especially since the evolution of the three ball, you're going to get...
You're never out of the game.
Yeah, you're never out.
No. Well, Zach LaVine just went and started torching them.
And there's a lot of Zach LaVine doubters. I know a lot of them, but he showed up that game. He didn't show up really yesterday.
No.
But he showed up for that game and eliminated the Raptors. Mike, next steps for the Raptors. If you're Masai, if you're Bobby Webster, what do you want to do with this team? There's a lot of guys we went through it this season. OG had mentioned there's one week he doesn't want to be here. Fred kind of floated out that he wanted to trade at the deadline. Gary has kind of expressed his displeasure, I guess, with his role with the team. What are you doing with this team going forward?
It's interesting. I think you take a look at the construction of the roster, and I think there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of names that like you like to have on your team as a second option, as a third option, but you don't want to have that person be number one or your go-to. Maybe like I really like Fred, but he had a down year this year. I like I think Pascal could be a number 2 on a championship team, but you know we talked about the free throws, right?
And he missed some clutch ones at the end too when they needed him.
Yeah. Right, and he's not a bad free throw shooter, but like there's clearly an issue with going to him as the go-to guy with the 30 seconds left. He's not an ISO player, and that's fine, right? You know, Sky Pippen was never an ISO player, right? So that's so all that to say is there's a ton of guys that I think there's a ton of assets that you can flip for something if you want to go the rebuilding route. And I don't necessarily think anyone's untouchable.
I don't think
Except Scotty,
anybody.
That's right.
I mean,
even
that's
Scotty.
even.
That was the question I was going to ask.
I mean, that's what I was gonna say. But my question to you, Mike and Joe, is that do you keep it intact and run it one more time, given the fact that you have the cap, you have the money, you have the option, or do you just blow it up this year?
Well, see, that's interesting because I do think the Raptors do have some money. Like, let's say, like they pay, so they have to pay Freddie if they're.
Fred's coming off the books. He's not going to exercise his option for sure.
Yeah, so like you have to pay Freddie.
Gary.
OG's going to get a big contract
next year.
OG's going to get a big contract, but so he's got one more year
Yeah,
left
one
on
more
his deal. So you have to, if you're going to run it back, then you have to either extend OG or play a wait and see approach. In which case he's going to get offended and he's leaving. All right.
So the guys that are up for this season is Fred VanVleet, who has an option.
Fred's opting out.
Yes,
OG has
Gary-
1 year. Jakob's
Gary-
is unrestricted.
Restricted.
They said it's a lock. He's coming back. I
Yeah.
guess
Yes.
that which would be terrible if he's traded first if he doesn't.
I know. Gary
Pascal has
something.
1 year left. Gary, as far as Gary
Player
signed
option.
a player option because it was 14 and 14, 2
Yeah.
years,
Yes,
24 or something.
Exactly.
So
And
he's
he's
probably
gonna
gonna
opt
opt.
Yeah.
He's gonna opt out. So
Yes.
you have to pay Fred. You have to pay Gary, and then you have a lot of expiring contracts, right? So the problem is, yeah. So the problem you're running into is, I think it starts and ends with Fred. If they can get Fred locked up, right, or if they want to lock.
Would you
him
want to
up,
pay Fred? That's the question. Do you want to give Fred 100 and let's say he wants 110, 120 for 4 years? Is that something you give a guy that's
That's what-
31?
Yeah,
You know
that's
what?
He wants Jalen Brunson money.
He is still a younger player in the league. I would say he's only what.
This is probably his
29
last
years
big
old.
contract. This is his last big payday, right?
And you know what? If someone's knocking, it should be the Portland Trailblazers. Because they have the assets, the Raptors have the assets, and if
or sign
Portland
and trade.
wants to do something, it would be the perfect chance for Lillard to come to a team that is actually has the second option, as you said, in Siakam, has a team, has
Right.
some vets, has some championship mentality, and they can ship the Raptors have the chance of shipping out, matching the money because we do have the expiring, give it to them, a younger team, build off of that, and
I
just
guess you
keep
probably have to move Pascal in that deal, right?
They would probably want Pascal. Like, so
I would disagree because now they're losing a point guard. You want to
There's
get rid of
Simons
Fred
too,
Van-
but you
Yeah.
can maybe move him in there. You can't have
Yes.
Simons and Fred both 6
No,
foot guys
so-
in the backcourt.
The trade that I would do is basically you would trade Fred VanVleet, you would trade Gary Trent, you would trade Koloko and Precious Achua for Damian Lillard. And the contract right there meets up and you throw in whatever.
Raptors are back in the title picture.
And you know what? I feel like they would be because the biggest thing that we were missing this season was shooting.
And a go-to scorer.
And we all
Yeah,
know
He's the most
right
clutch guy
now.
in the league.
Would you guys do you guys think that? I mean, in my opinion, I think he's the second best point guard in the league right now,
well, the problem
behind,
is how many.
behind Steph.
The problem is how many, like, you're kind of stripping bare a lot of guys. We've seen what happened when you strip bare a lot of guys who are role players who play defense on a constructed team with Dallas, right? So the problem that you run into is you get Lillard, who, like, you know, not as bad as he used to be, but still a minus defender, you know, still a liability,
Injury prone guy.
and an injury prone guy, right? And for what? For a guy who last 2 minutes of the game can shoot the ball, right?
For a pipe dream to try and get to the
No.
final.
And
I disagree, man. He this year had an MVP season
Before they shut him down.
before they
Yeah.
shut him
I
down.
agree. He had a big season.
He was untouchable, and his mindset is he wants to win a championship. This is the first time in his career with the Portland Trailblazers that he's actually said something about not.
He's
being
32
there.
now, right? I guess now at this
So,
point it's put up a
Exactly.
shot,
So now we're saying Siakam could be a number 2 on the team. Well, guess what? That is the perfect. I think they would be the perfect
1-2.
1-2 for each other.
Okay. Let's finish up with Raptors. We have to get to the playoffs. Nick Nurse, I guess we'll do the final thing there. So you want to go? You're more of, as opposed to rebuild. You want to make some shuffles to go upwards.
Absolutely.
Okay. And Mike, what would you do if you're GM? Are you stripping down, or are you trying to make another run for 1 or 2 more years?
I think it starts with Fred. Like, what we do with Fred, how do we, I like the idea of a sign and trade. If we can get a sign and trade
Like the
for,
Kyle trade,
yeah,
something like that, get a piece back.
get a piece back, and depending on that piece, like if it is a Damian Lillard, I think that's like, no offense, really out there. But
Absolutely.
like, I think it's,
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
but
He's
I
why-
probably going to force a trade. You have to think he's going to force a trade the offseason, right?
Yeah.
I just saw like after the trade deadline when they shipped out Hart, when they shipped out the other guy that they had on the team. I forgot. I'm having a brain fart right now. But when they broke up that and they brought in Josh. It was Gary Payton, I think that they.
Yeah, they traded him to
Yes,
the other
yeah. So
Warriors,
they
yeah.
just brought him as a defensive guy that they could build off of, and they just shipped all these guys out, and they brought Cam Reddish, and they bought the other gentleman. I forgot his name. Thibault. which is a really good. I thought that
He
was
got
a
some
really
minutes
good
there,
pickup.
yeah.
But those guys are very young, inexperienced. They were role players that barely got any minutes in their respective team. Damian Lillard doesn't want to be a part of that right now.
No, like
They're going for a lottery pick,
I see,
right?
I see the headiness around it. I'm not trying to like
Yes.
this. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if we can get like a superstar off of like maybe a sign and trade, maybe a trade straight up, maybe we ship like Scotty Barnes or whatever, and then we let Fred walk. Then I can see a
Perfect.
world where the Raptors can, contend with Nick Nurse as their coach. But if let's say Fred, because I still think Nick Nurse is a very good coach, right? But let's say
I think
Fred
his time's
doesn't-
here done though.
I think the boys. Are
I think that
starting
it was
to
an
turn around.
unstable team.
Yeah,
I
the boys
think
are turning around.
that Nick Nurse is a remarkable coach, but for him to think that the grass is greener, it's going to be a very.
I'd be
big-
happy to let him go because it might expose him as well. Like he had when you stumble into a team that has Kawhi Leonard and pretty much we talked
Absolutely.
about it before on the show, like the best possible team minus a superstar. Kawhi goes in there, everybody goes back to their respective roles of 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it was a lot easier for him. Now I was talking with Zane as well about this. I think that championship got to his head and he thinks he's like bigger than the game almost. That's the vibe I'm getting from him. A lot of the players you can tell they don't really like where he's been. I'm not a big fan of putting guys in the doghouse. Like
Yeah.
these are pro guys. I didn't like it. One quick thing, we'll just kind of wrap up with the Raptors. I'd like to see Nurse, so just for a change. I wouldn't mind. I would love an OKC kind of thing. You look at a team like OKC now, they saw the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
Westbrook asked, so, okay, cool. Flip Paul George, get picks. If you can trade Pascal or any of those guys and get picks, tell your fans, let's show for 4 or 5 years. We're going to be a great team in 5 or 6 years, contend for a title for 10. As
I'm
a
with
fan, that's something I want to see. A proper rebuild that's never been done.
Absolutely.
Instead of trying to retool, you're not better than Boston, you're not better than Milwaukee.
Yeah.
You're not going to have anybody to go against them beat for the next 5 years. So what's the point of trying to claw your way up? Sit back, get some picks, plant some seeds, and then when Scotty's going to be 27, there's going to be guys like Scotty coming up with him that are 19, 20 at that point.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
I agree. Like I just think that like if we are going to retool, I would like to see a superstar come here. I don't think we're going to get that. So let's rebuild. Right?
Yeah, I think so because, like I said, unless the whole point of playing the game is to win a championship, championship or bust. Why do you want to be a middling team that's going to draft 13 like they're going to draft this year? You don't have your pick next year because you traded it for Pirtle, top 5 protected.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd rather see that.
You know what? My thing about the Nick Nurse though, I do want to circle back is who replaces him because
He made Udoka.
I was gonna say, right?
I think that would be the perfect mix.
You know he's
Look at
going
what
to
he
get back
did.
into it.
Oh yeah.
Because
he wasn't fired.
Boston,
I think he was suspended. For
he
the
was
season.
suspended. But here's the thing: Boston with Joe Mazzulla looks
Fine
fine
for now.
So
I
there
wouldn't
you
say better,
You
but
go ask for
fine.
permission, you bring him in.
Yeah, so I think if Ime Udoka wants it,
Yeah, and I think because you're in the same division, you get to go against your own team that kind of suspended.
yeah,
you, right?
you
I
can
totally
plant that
agree
seed
with
and it
that.
would be like imagine bringing another
Little brother
championship.
coming to get big brother.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think there's a world where he comes here. If he does,
They're
then
not going to rebuild if he's coming.
that's the problem, right?
I
And
just
so-
feel like there should be a new voice in
There
town.
needs to be a new voice.
There needs to be
Yeah.
a new voice. Don't get me wrong. Nick Nurse has done remarkable things. He's the one that built the Antetokounmpo wall. Like it was his defense, the
Yeah,
1
the
and
box
4,
and one against
box and
Curry.
1. He's the one that set up these schemes that everybody else in the NBA kind of piggybacked on. So you got to give him his respect for that.
Yeah.
He did a very, very good job with the team he had. He knew that hey, it was championship or bust, and he made that happen. But moving forward from that time till now, it's been disappointing, and it's not always his
He
fault.
hasn't said the right things either.
Yes, that's 100%.
It's not like he's been out there and
true.
he's like, I want to coach this team. We're going to build with this. He's danced around it. There was the reports that management was pissed off at him.
Yes.
I think it's pretty much a lock he's gone. And then quickly, I was speaking with a few people about this as well. Mike raised the question, who's the next coach? You look at a team like Utah who signed the Celtics assistant. There's always someone in the wings that's going to come in and be a good coach, I think.
Absolutely.
And these days, there's a lot of good minds in basketball. We might not know the names of all the assistants. Udoka was an assistant with the Spurs forever.
Yeah.
All these guys, you give them a chance. Spoelstra obviously was the video guy. Give a young guy a new shot.
Send
You
this
don't
up.
have to bring in a guy, pay him the world to come in and do this with
No,
the team, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of like, so for the Raptors, then you're retool. You're more of a rebuild.
I would say rebuild.
I would too. Because you don't want to be stuck in purgatory in the NBA these days with so many superstars, right? You wanna be
Absolutely.
drafting
But it's like I said, it's if you retool properly, you
with a
get
star.
what you
If you
need.
get a star,
Exactly. With a shooting star, not just a guy that's just gonna go in and do exactly what you've been doing,
Yeah.
which is a
you need a
one-on-one.
bona fide star if you're going to do
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
You need to
And
stumble
that's
into a Kawhi.
If not, you just sell all your assets.
Yeah.
Because right now, if Rudy Gobert got 5 draft picks,
Yeah.
you know,
and
what
3
is
swaps.
Siakam?
That's what I'm saying,
Exactly.
right? Like you got to
So
test the
you
market. If
gotta
OG
do
wants to
that.
go, you get 3 first-round
What,
picks.
what
or
is
2,
it
like-
with what is it with the league and Rudy Gobert that like they're seeing that we're not seeing?
I think it's just what Minnesota saw that nobody else saw.
Okay.
I mean, I think they just wanted to play Carl Anthony Towns at the 4, and they really wanted that
It was a
defensive 5.
desperation move.
Because they were, if you know, like they were bottom 25, bottom 30 defensive
Defense, yeah.
rating
Yeah.
for the past like 10 years.
Because they thought he was going to back everybody
Oh
up. and do
yeah,
that, right?
absolutely. Well, you got to realize they had D'Angelo Russell, they had Anthony Edwards, and they have Carl
Towns,
Anthony
a lot
Towns.
of minus defenders.
So all minus defenders. The only real defender that they had on the team at the time was
Vanderbilt.
McDaniels.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt left, got
yeah,
shipped.
yeah.
So that's why. I mean, for what Minnesota was trying to do, they just gave up way too much
To do
to do it.
A quick
Exactly.
fix is what they tried for.
Like,
They're going
look-
to pay for it for the next 5 or 6
Look
years.
at what Cleveland gave up for Donovan. You know,
half of that
half,
problem,
and
right?
it was
a
such
much
a
better trade.
much better trade.
Yeah.
Worked out perfect for Cleveland because like look at how well they've rejuvenated and you know looked like. I think defensively, offensively, they could probably be, if not, I think they're the most balanced team in the NBA.
Cleveland. They're one of the, I think they were the top defensive team. But the whole thing is, if you're going to give up the farm, you want to make sure you're a legit title contender. Or else what are
Absolutely.
you doing, right? Minnesota thought they were doing that, they didn't. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk about the East and the West matchups in the first round.